It doesn't matter who we are. What matters is our plan.
Welcome to the 36th episode of News Dump, where we run through the hottest topics in the Lewis County news scene and discuss. I'm Aaron Van Tile, joined as always by Chronicle Editor-in-Chief Eric Schwartz and Franklin. Franklin, what a surprise. How are you?
I know, I'm doing good. I'm not as good as guest as Claudia is. I'll try.
Okay.
I'll try.
You're very good. Claudia is also great, but you bring a definite energy to the podcast. It's welcome.
But what he means by that is he likes it when there's no women on the podcast, whereas I am a big supporter of having a female voice to help bring balance.
Eric Schwartz, girl dad, is in the house.
I'm also going to be a girl dad.
Congratulations.
And, I agree. We need Claudia back.
Yeah, she hopefully will be back next week. She had a conflict, couldn't make it today, but yeah, we're happy to have Franklin in the house.
Shameless plug time. Franklin and I just recorded our first podcast together, Chronversations. You can find it at chronline.com.
Wow, it's great that you didn't read the show notes and see where I was going to talk about that later.
I wanted to make sure it was right off top, and
we
then
can talk
also
about it
later.
Twice.
So it's a spinoff. The universe is expanding. So
it is the serious uncle to News Dump, I think you could say. It's a little less off the cuff, and it features 100% less me. Mm-hmm. So people are gonna love it.
People are gonna love it,
guys. It's Sunday, February 21st, and I have bad news. The Spring Youth Fair canceled.
No.
The latest casualty of our ongoing worldwide pandemic is the 2021 Spring Youth Fair. What are you going to miss the most?
The Youth Fair as a whole.
Good answer.
Just the entire
Give him a good Family Feud good answer.
Let me be honest with you. Don't know if I've ever been to it, but it's sad that it gets canceled because I'd imagine a lot of people did enjoy going to that.
A lot did. 7,000 people over the course of the weekend, according to the fair office.
It's
story.
like a Friday to Sunday.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like it's a miniature and agricultural focused version of the big fair just for the kids. I mean, I always had a lot of fun taking my kids to it. But 2 years in a row, this is the first casualty, I believe, first major casualty of 2021 and events and festival season. But they're saying the big one, the Catalina wine mixer, if you will, the Southwest Washington Fair, still think that they can make that happen. So
great. Well, it's sad to see the youth fair go, but holding out hope for the real fair. I know Claudia is very excited to cover the Little Miss Friendly pageant. We've mentioned that on several podcasts, and she is just amped up.
Big advocate, as am I, for the pageant. I enjoy it greatly. I might be the foremost historian of Little Miss Friendly contests.
You do have some Little Miss Friendly takes.
Mm-hmm. I do. So we hope to have that. And
out of all the Little Miss Friendlies, who's been your favorite, Eric?
Bailey Peters, I believe.
Yeah, she was Little Miss Friendly and then went on to be Miss Lewis County.
Yeah, I covered that as an intern. Later, we included her Miss Lewis County victory, so I'd have to put her in the conversation. I don't know how many other Miss Lewis counties were also Little Miss Friendlies, so that's I don't know.
That's a stat we need.
Go through the history books and figure that out. Yeah.
Franklin thought he gotcha'd me there, like I wouldn't be able to name any of them.
Oh, I knew you'd name one.
Just don't ask me to name two, and we'll be in good shape.
All right, our first news item. Earthquakes hit Mount Rainier, and we may be doomed. Did you guys feel them? Did you guys feel the earthquakes? It shook Mount Rainier and the entire state, the Cascadia subsection of the world.
No, none of that happened.
Be honest, did not feel one.
There was about 20 small quakes near Mount Rainier on Wednesday evening. The USGS wrote on Facebook on Thursday afternoon, while the seismicity represents a temporary uptick in activity, Mount Rainier remains at normal background levels of activity. It's not going to blow just yet, but just a little reminder that it's always out there.
Always out there.
What I found interesting is the USGS posted about this like swarm of earthquakes, like simply to say there's nothing to be afraid of.
Instantly.
And so we wrote a story about that, and then I noticed over the weekend there was several TV stations and other newspapers that also wrote stories, and none of them mentioned in the first part of their stories that this was kind of, normal. So
Did we do that?
nice try, USGS.
They almost had us.
7 Cascade volcanoes have erupted since the start of the 18th century. That was something that I learned from this story.
Wow, that's a lot. That's more than I would have thought.
More than I thought.
Yeah, I think we just had Mount St. Helens, though, so maybe we're not due. Maybe, what do you think is going to hit first, natural disaster-wise? Is it going to be an earthquake?
Probably a flood, if I had to guess.
Yeah. If they don't build that dam. You're right.
So we are probably not going to have to do it anytime soon, but if Rainier blows, what's your exit strategy?
I'm just gonna hit a dead sprint to the west.
That's a good idea.
All right.
That's a good idea.
Just on foot. There's no point of trying to take a car at that point.
Too much traffic at that point.
I'm very fast.
very quick. With those long legs, I bet.
Yeah, I don't have my bunker finished yet, but that's just a reminder to get to work on it. Franklin, where are you going if the mountain blows?
The mountain blows. Probably stay here. I know I'm not going to outrun it. I'm not going to go far. I'm going to hunker down and then enjoy my final minutes.
I would think this building would actually be a great place. If nothing else has knocked it down over all these years.
It survived the snow.
And it has had chances. This is as good a spot as any.
Yeah, so you think that this building has structural integrity is what you're telling me.
It's kind of like the episode of The Simpsons where Mr. Burns goes to the Mayo Clinic and they tell him that he has so many diseases that none of them can take over his body and kill him, and he interprets it to mean that he is invincible, and the doctor's like, no, quite the contrary, and then he just leaves. It's like that.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
What is your exit strategy, Aaron?
I am going to go dump some kind of a boat in the Skookumchuck River down below my house and just float on into obscurity.
The Chehalis River?
Into certain death.
That's not a bad idea.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah, because you
Not a
could,
bad idea.
if you had a speedboat or something, I think you get hung up eventually. It's not all that deep.
I got to purchase a jet ski and keep it down at the river.
I could just see
Way
you
to go.
to the open ocean.
So long, nerds. All right, our second item, it concerns a friend of Chronversations. Peter Abarno introduces bill to prevent waste discharge from vehicles into waterways. So with many people unable to find permanent housing, an increasing number of citizens are forced to live in vehicles, RVs and such, which results in waste being discharged into bodies of water and storm drains. This bill would direct cities subject to stormwater permits to establish a program to identify and prevent illegal discharges from vehicles. Seattle was mentioned in the article. Seattle would have to provide low-cost or free options to dump waste for RVs. And you guys just heard Peter talk about this. Spoilers, Peter Abarno was the guest on the first episode of Chronversations. Sorry for stealing your thunder. How does it feel?
Celebrity.
No, I think it sounds pretty common sense to me, right? I don't think it's cruel to the people that are having to live in their cars or their RVs. I think that's tragic in a lot of ways. Some people maybe want to live in their RV, but I think most that are doing it anew right now have some economic issues for it. Mm-hmm. But I think it compounds that sadness if those people are then having to dump their human waste, into a creek or into a river or just down a drain pipe. So it puts the onus on the city or whoever to make sure that there is some place where they can dump it. It's not saying,
I don't think that's asking too much either.
No.
No, I like that it includes free or, reduced options for doing that kind of dumping too. I think that's pretty important. It's Peter living up to his promise to fix infrastructure and sewers and things like this, and this kind of falls in line with that.
I think you mentioned it too, but I think the origin of thought on this one for the legislation was Mellon Street last year, and you had a ton of cars and RVs parking at the park and ride, and while there was no photographic evidence, plenty of people were calling around to say that they watched people just dump their urine and poop, let's just call it what it is, directly into drains.
Can we call it gray water?
The Chehalis River is right there, so it's going right in. I do think that that's a good common sense piece of legislation.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
Nothing can stop you from dumping yours into the Skookumchuck, though, out on your spread.
We both know that anytime I have to take a number 2, I walk all the way down to the Skook. And just
gross.
I do not, just for the record. So our next item, Fish and Wildlife once again extends the public comment for TransAlta land acquisition. We discussed this heavily on last week's podcast, the issue of TransAlta considering at least letting Fish and Wildlife acquire 9,600 acres for wildlife refuges and things of that nature. My question, do you think this means they've gotten a lot of comments or not a lot of comments?
I think they probably have gotten more comments in the last couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks that we've been covering it here at the Chronicle. Because prior to that, I don't think a lot of people knew about it. I actually have to give credit to guest columnist Jamie Lund, who notified us about it by way of sending a column and letting us know it was happening. I hadn't heard about it, and then after we ran the story, there's a lot more important people than me who also were kind of caught off guard by it. So I think extending it makes sense, and I think now they're going to get flooded with comments, both for and against, based on the letters to the editor I'm seeing, comments on Facebook, things like that.
It has been the topic du jour in Lewis County lately. What to do with TransAlta's land? It's a regular, like, I don't want to say a Brewster's Millions situation because that's not right, but it's everybody's talking about what to do with TransAlta's land. It's great. I like it. You love to see it.
You do love to see it.
And go ahead.
No. I was just going to mention I took a look at the Centralia City Council's agenda for their meeting this week, and there's a letter opposing the transaction, and at the bottom are the names and titles of all the mayors of all the cities of Lewis County. So I think that there's going to be a more unified effort, and I still haven't heard a public official in Lewis County come out and say they support it, which it's surprising that there isn't one.
Yeah, it is. And this is also a good time for me to mention new Lewis County Commissioner Sean Swope. We may have clowned upon him a little bit for his comments about frogs and wildlife being contained on the last episode and previous episodes, but I, for one, would like to say that I just appreciate the amount of work he puts into coming up with metaphors and quotes for these situations. It's nice to see him just be prepared to have something interesting to say or to throw out like a quote or something that he's clearly workshopped.
Yeah, no, I actually think for a new public official, he seems very engaged. Go back to the Inslee letter that we talked about, and I think you made light of it a little bit as well, poked some holes in it. But it's February. He's been in office since January, and from what I've seen, he is at the very least trying his best to represent the people of Lewis County to the best of his ability. And I'm not saying that that's not true for anyone else, but you're right. You have taken swats at Mr. Swope, and I think, on his behalf, I will take your apology and consider it.
It's I don't agree with everything he's doing, but I do appreciate the work he's putting into holding his office and living up to the votes he picked up.
Mm-hmm. He did not flee town during the last snowstorm, I'll tell you that.
No, I'm sure he was here. I did not see him in Cancun. Franklin, any thoughts on TransAlta? You weren't here last week, but what would you like to see done with TransAlta's land? What do you think the old man should do with his property?
Oh, jeez.
Old man TransAlta?
Old man
TransAlta's giving away the farm, and everybody wants a piece.
I don't know anything off the top of my head, but I would like,
Well, this is where you
options. We're not going to put in a big Ferris wheel like Seattle.
Well, this is where you this is where you let your fantasies run free. What would you like to see out there?
Walt Disney himself.
Dig him up.
Smaller scale Disneyland.
Thaw out his head and get Walt Disney out there building a new theme park.
I do want to note, Michael Wagar, columnist, wrote about how SeaTac 2 should be out there, potentially a golf course, and a NASCAR track. And he was being silly. He even said it in his column. And then Julie McDonald, another columnist, suggested that. And then we got told off by a letter writer who was just like, don't listen to these silly ideas from these columnists because people are going to think that they're realistic. And then, anyways, I just wanted to note that.
No, just an idea, though. Golf course would be nice right there.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
Would be a cool spot for a golf course.
You could do a lot of stuff out there. You could have your land for your frogs and your turtles and also like some... nice lake-style golf course or whatever.
Can't golf there if the turtles are there.
The acidic water.
Yes.
Your ball just dissolves.
Oh, no. Let's see. Next news item. This is not great news. Lewis County dead last in vaccine distribution in Washington State. We did it. This is not a great look. In terms of vaccine distribution in the state, Lewis County is currently dead last, according to data from Department of Health. As of Friday, this is last Friday, only 6.76% of county residents have initiated vaccination, compared to 11.73% statewide. Only 1.7% of residents have gotten both doses, compared to 4.10% statewide. So that 1.70% in a county of 80,000 people works out to, what, like 1,100 people? 12, 1,300?
No, whatever it is. You say it's a bad look. I agree, but I do not think it's a bad look for Lewis County public health officials. They can only disperse what they get.
Okay.
So if they're not getting the allocation from the state, there's really, you can't criticize them unless you think that they should be, making a run on Olympia, and stealing vaccine doses and running back down here. I think that our local public health officials have done a great job. And one of my concerns when this story went out was just that people are going to read that and be like, oh, Lewis County can't handle it.
Are you referring to the next section of my show notes then?
You get your 4 mass vaccination centers. None of them are near us. There's one in Ridgefield. There's one in Wenatchee. I can't remember where the other 2 are, but they're not Lewis County. A lot of the people getting their shots in Lewis County aren't even from Lewis County because they've learned how to work the system and they're coming in from outside communities. Mm-hmm. So bottom line, I just want to say I think Lewis County Public Health is doing a fine job. They've got their local hotline and mobile clinics coming on as early as next week. So I think we're going to turn it around. And one interesting Facebook comment I liked was somebody had to be last. It's going to happen.
I did find it very interesting that people were coming to Lewis County from different areas to get the vaccine. Is it driving tourism?
I don't think so. No, this is not a Discover Lewis County situation.
Numbers by any means, I guess.
I've heard it the other way around too. We mentioned it last week, but I know a gentleman that had to go down to Vancouver to get one shot, and then he had to go to a different county to get his second shot.
Oh, wow.
But you really have to be computer savvy and have time, to get in line early, and just know where to find it and when. I think it'll get easier here in the next month or so. But
yeah. This does come just a few days after county officials called a plan to dissolve local health jurisdictions shocking. LC Health Officer J.P. Anderson said last week, I don't see what the benefit to Lewis County would be. I don't see what the benefit to these services we're trying to deliver to the people of Lewis County would be. This is in reference to the governor's plan to basically establish regional health districts.
It would be similar, everyone assumes, to the regions he's set up for his phase 1, phase 2 Healthy Washington plan. Mm-hmm. I get what you're driving at. You think that maybe that would correct the situation, but I don't know that would be the case.
I don't know that it would correct the situation, but simply from an optics standpoint, it's tough to look at these 2 stores coming out within 4 days of each other and look at the first one and say, this doesn't inspire a ton of confidence.
Right, for Lewis County, who's at the bottom, I'm sure you could imagine that perhaps if we were in a larger region that maybe we'd get more doses, I suppose. But we're in a region with Thurston County as well. It's a much larger population. There still would have to be some sort of localized framework for getting the vaccine out. If Thurston County had the ability to get the vaccine in more arms, I think they'd end up with more, and I don't know that it would improve anything anyways.
Okay. All right. Well,
local control, Van Tile. That's the way. This is the way.
This is the way.
All right. Well, I will walk back my proposed take of it being like someone telling you they're a great driver, and then you walk to their car and see it's covered in dents.
No, you didn't walk that take back. You said it anyways. So.
I said it half-heartedly. Do we have any other news items that I have forgotten that you guys would like to cover?
I want to see. Let me add just that on that topic, you're not wrong, and I don't think that I'm wrong either. But
impossible. Go on.
It's a pandemic. We've never dealt with this generation has never dealt with trying to do this before. So I think when all is said and done, we are going to have some better ways of doing things. And I think a lot of people just don't want to make that decision right in the middle of the pandemic, that we're going to shift everything around, get rid of all this infrastructure we have locally, even if it's flawed, and then hand the keys over to them bureaucrats in Olympia. Mm-hmm. Anyways, that's all.
Okay. Tough transition.
Yeah. Shall we move to Tales from the Takes page? We're just burning through content on this one. But we have a big, long entry coming up in a few minutes. I don't want to spoil anything.
All right. If we have any extra news, we'll tack it on the end. Because I got some stuff I could throw in there, but none of it's a must-have.
Tales from the Takes page, a.k.a. the opinion section. One column that I've had a little bit of life on Twitter, actually. A number of people were retweeting it. Bill Moeller talks smoking. What was his headline? Smoke, smoke, smoke that cigarette?
Yeah, that was Bill Moeller. And just for context, this is our, I believe, I'm going to get his age wrong, but 94, 95, 96, somewhere in that range. He's an older gentleman. Former Centralia mayor, former bookstore owner. He was a paratrooper, and he was a pilot. So
Mark Twain impersonator.
Stuff. Mark Twain impersonator. I don't think it's impersonator, is it? Isn't there another title for that?
Impersonation?
Impersonator. Yeah, I know. I see what you're getting at.
Like a cover band?
Impressionist or something?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
Yeah, he did that for a long time.
But his column was essentially, remember cigarettes? Back in my day, there was a lot of them. I thought it was a pretty interesting column.
I thought it was too, and, I'll be honest, people will, kind of make jokes about Bill Moeller's column sometimes, just because he's older and he has an older perspective, and his topics are sometimes stuff you and I, and you even, the TikTok generation would not care about.
I think it's important for us to read it. It was pretty neat to read.
Yeah,
it was
neat.
awesome.
Neat. That's what it is. It's not like super It's and he was talking about like the amount of nicotine and tar in each brand, and I liked his talking about growing up in Aberdeen and wandering around with the Lutheran pastor's son, clipping off the tobacco and then rolling their own and then choking on it. And I think and he does it a lot in his columns. I think he's just reflecting a lot. He talks about in his columns all the time, I'm approaching the finish line, and I think that resonates with a lot of our readers. So
yeah, his stuff's it's always pretty interesting. It's a nice look back. Let's see. Next entry from Julie McDonald. Leadership requires courage of convictions, and she's talking about Jamie Herrera Butler. She was pro Jamie Herrera Butler, who we also discussed on last week's podcast for her brief time in the national spotlight in regards to the impeachment trial. But Julie had nice things to say about Herrera Butler.
And I have people ask me all the time, like, and I wish I had mentioned this to Julie at some point, but they'll say, what happened to Julie? Because she's a conservative and, involved in the party. She wrote a column a few weeks, maybe a month or two ago, about, she actively campaigned for George W. Bush, and she's always backed Republicans, but she and I know others cannot stomach President Donald Trump, and she was rather disgusted about the events of January 6th. So her opinion, which was not shared by many of our followers on Facebook, was that Jamie Herrera Butler made a brave decision, the brave and correct decision. I think even if you don't think she made the correct decision, it's certainly a brave decision because
very brave.
It's she might be looking at her last couple of years in office now.
Yeah. All right. Next set of takes comes from Jamie Lund, the man who broke the TransAlta story, some would say. Column, County Health District better than state districts. So he is in your camp and not wanting to change a thing about how public health is distributed throughout the state.
Yeah, in not so many words.
I got to be honest, I just noticed this and added to the list a few minutes ago. I haven't read through it.
The takeaway is, he says, the reality is that our highly educated professionals of Lewis County are more motivated to look after the needs of their community members, all of them, than strangers in another city would be. So that's like the simple approach, but he does dive into the numbers quite a bit, and he kind of ties it to some other issues. I don't think that it is necessarily something you would agree with, but I enjoyed it.
He's got some takes. Check it out. And what would an episode of News Dump be without some takes from Michael, our good friend? Michael Wager commentary, legislature needs to pass bill to fix high lead levels in schools' drinking water.
Controversial. He takes a strong stance.
Yes, Michael's strong. What if the water didn't have lead in it?
Michael wants clean water.
Yeah. And I haven't read through this in detail, but at any point does he mention how clean the water is in his lakeside, hillside manor in Mossy Rock?
I don't think he did this week, no.
Well,
but he did talk about how Back a few years ago, the Department of Health found actionable levels of lead in 7 Lewis County elementary schools. Most alarming were the levels of lead at Cascade Elementary in the Shahale School District. The school had the 2nd or 7th highest level of lead out of all schools tested in the state. So it is an issue of local importance, and there's a bill in the legislature that would address that matter. And he's just saying, hey, let's clean that water up, guys.
Yeah, great. I enjoy seeing Michael on the opinion page. It's good to see him back in there.
When I read that one, I was like, you know how there's always a counter argument. Like, what do you think the counter argument is? They're not even in school. They don't need lead out of their water.
There was lead in my water when I was a kid.
Yeah, the counter argument
turned out fine.
Oh, I used to drink out of a hose.
I'm a garden hose kid.
So do we all. We all drank river water, okay? Just like, calm down.
Pencils are made of lead.
Yeah, kids eat those all the time. All right, moving on to our business feature roundup. First entry is the Well Spa in Chehalis. Located in Chehalis, the business is all about family. It takes a holistic treatment approach to wellness. You guys need to get well?
I could get a little weller.
I think that's their
I
demographic.
could use a massage, some skincare, maybe some waxing.
I'll do all 3.
Yeah, you have a nice
How
spa
about
day
all
together.
3 of us?
Yeah, podcast spa day.
Maybe we'll film the next podcast there.
This,
Yes.
it's a small shop too, and I like the business features that are about little 1 and 2 employee spots like this. But this is a mother and daughter who operate out of a. It's really a 1-person studio, so they have to move. They schedule their hours opposite of each other, so there's always just the 1 person in there, and they were not too affected by COVID other than having to shut during that time. But really, they think as being a small operation like they are, it actually kind of gives them a leg up because, you're never going to break any occupancy levels when you're operating out of 1 room with 1 client. So,
Yeah.
I think anybody that read that knows Emily did an awesome job.
Yeah, I think she did. That's Emily Fitzgerald, our newest reporter, who has been doing very well. Mostly she does crime and court stuff. But now that Eric Trent, sports editor, is back to sports, we're enlisting the reporters to do our biz features again.
Yeah. Next entry, Central Glassworks hosts glass-blowing demos and classes in Centralia. If you're out and about in downtown Centralia, you will probably come across a sign guiding you to a live glass-blowing demonstration at Central Glassworks on Main Street. It's an open studio that welcomes anyone walking by to come in and observe the glass-blowing process, which often inspires people to give it a try, book a class, and make their own one-of-a-kind creation. If you guys were to walk into Central Glassworks, what would you craft through blowing glass?
Maybe a really nice vase. I would blow a very nice vase.
What are your options? I mean,
I think you guys are both just beating around the bush and not saying smoking devices, but...
That didn't even cross my mind.
Yeah, you've exposed yourself, Aaron.
What would you make, Aaron?
A vase.
A bong. I like the glass flowers. That's probably what I would make.
The glass does look very cool, too.
I would attempt a flower, but I know I could not do anything nearly as that pretty.
It's a cool business downtown. A lot of times people are just like, well, downtown Centralia is just pretty much bars and antique shops, but there's more than that.
There's also professional offices.
There are
Gun
professional
stores.
offices. There's gun stores. There's boutiques. There's coffee shops.
Yeah.
Tattoo parlors.
Tattoo parlors. Hairstylists.
Hairstylists.
Bars already got mentioned, but I'll allow it.
Are we saying it again?
We got to find out about the building downtown, though, where the roof collapsed, right across from B&D over there. The old Safeway, I'm told.
We have that. We have
even have
that
a collapsed
in our
building.
Facebook comments of the week section.
Oh, excellent.
Eric is skipping ahead a lot today.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't review the notes.
And our last business feature item, Midway Cinema opens partially after shutdowns in March and November. The cinema is currently offering weekend and Monday shows with lower prices and COVID-19 protocols in place to encourage community members to safely make their way back to the movies. They officially reopened Friday, February 5th after being temporarily shut down. And Director of Operations for Coming Attractions Theaters says it was a good turnout. I think people want to come back. And yeah, I agree. It would be nice to go back to the movies.
So, let's see. Emily Fitzgerald also wrote this story, and I'm going to run down the movies
Nice job, Emily.
that they're offering, and you guys have to pick which one of these you're going to go see.
Okay, let's
We've
hear
got Judas and the Black Messiah.
Seen it?
Got The World to Come. We've got The Little Things.
Seen it?
The Marksman. The Reckoning, Weekenders, Monster Hunter, News of the World, The Croods, A New Age, Wonder Woman 1984, or, in honor of Valentine's Day, a daily showing of The Notebook.
Oh, I would go see The Notebook. I mean, come on. Love The Notebook.
Real good move here.
Big fan.
I would ask Melinda if she wanted to go see a movie. I would take her to The Notebook. Mm-hmm. And I'm the hero. There's the movie I would see.
With flowers from Glassworks, perhaps?
That's a baller
With
move.
a bong from
That's a baller
Glassworks?
move.
After
the bong
you
was for Aaron.
picked her up from the wellness spa.
Yeah. What a day. What a day of pampering.
I'm going with The Croods, A New Age. Big Croods fan. That's a Nicolas Cage joint.
All right. Do we have a People's Champion of the Week? There's nothing in the show notes, so we're gonna have to go off the cuff.
I had a People's Champion of the Week that I selected here. Let's see. I just gotta find it. We're gonna pick the Toledo middle schoolers who are involved in a project that has landed them as semifinalists in the nationwide Samsung Solve for Tomorrow contest. They earned $15,000 to purchase new technology for science classes at their school with a ongoing project where they're using a hydroponic farming system, which doesn't include soil, to grow food right in the back of their science classroom.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Nice job, kids.
No, $15,000, that's a big deal for a science class in Toledo. Like, you can get a lot of stuff with that.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, that's great. Even the experience those kids are going to get, that's going to be amazing as well.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a fun story. The teacher, it seems like in a situation like this, you got to give a lot of credit to the teacher. So certainly included in our weekly honor is Cheryl Stead or Cheryl Steed. I'm not sure how that would be pronounced. Probably Stead.
Probably.
But that's her classroom, and it looks really cool. They've got these looks like shelves where they're growing the food in. They're using lights. I liked the line in the story, and this was by Celine Fitzgerald, where the kids brought in their own Christmas lights from home to use. So now maybe this $15,000 they can buy some real legit lights.
All
right, cool.
That was a super super cool project, and hero of the week.
All right.
Or People's Champion of the Week.
People's Champion of the Week. Thank you.
I'm always off-brand that.
And now for our Sirens Banger of the Week.
Oh boy.
Mossy man charged for threatening police, throwing urine, and threatening woman with antler on Valentine's Day. Mossy man faces 10 assault and harassment charges after he allegedly threatened a woman with an antler, repeatedly threatened law enforcement and hospital staff, and threw his own urine at officers. Let's just run through the timeline.
I mean, he got kicked out of court the next day for throwing.
Stop jumping ahead, sir.
Well, my take is, how do you throw urine?
We'll get there.
He cupped it in his hand. And
We'll get there.
Yeah.
All right. We got to run through the timeline of this gentleman's Valentine's Day.
Hot mess.
He slept over at somebody's house, spent Valentine's Day drinking on their couch. Threatened to stab someone with a deer antler, was asked to leave, shoved somebody, and drove off. Sheriff's deputy found his car with beer cans in it and the suspect walking out of the trees. He got threatened with a taser and arrested. Told the deputy, "Take these off, boy, and we'll go a couple rounds." Threatened the deputy some more. Peed on himself, scooped some of it up, and threw it at the officers. Got charged with a bunch of stuff, including second-degree assault, which carries a maximum of 10 years in prison and $20,000 in fines. Was brought before a judge on Wednesday and wanted to know who the assaults were against. They told him, and he said, "You got to be shitting me. Why don't you put those two crooks in jail?" He was subsequently sent back to jail and then sent in an apology to the court for his outburst. What a ride.
I like the jail attendant sending a message back up to the court on his behalf. He does appreciate the offer to come back tomorrow and apologizes for the outburst.
Just a wild Valentine's Day.
You know how I feel. You don't want
Valentine's Day.
make fun of someone too much in their worst moment. And crime stories are always, they have a tragic bent to them just naturally. But this one, man, when Emily Fitzgerald turned it in, that was a roller coaster ride I went through. When I was done, I had to just close my laptop and lean back, just absorb it.
Just be like, wow.
That was a ride.
Yeah.
Wow.
The deer antler as a weapon, I mean, just that in itself would have been
I always wondered, how large of an antler?
Yeah, I don't know.
Big enough to stab somebody, I guess.
Maybe.
Yeah, some real innovation there. Yeah. Kudos to the deputy for keeping his cool. And
yeah, can you imagine getting, and I know they have to deal with it all the time, but can you imagine, like, you've already wrestled this guy into your car and you get him where you need to go and he throws his own piss at you?
Yeah.
And
like,
but before that goes, take these off, boys. Let's go a couple rounds.
Oh, my
that
goodness.
part, I was laughing at that part.
Oh my goodness.
That's a quote right there.
I bet, just knowing what I know about drinking, I bet this man's memory of these events is
Hazy at best.
hazy
Slim to
at
none.
best. So I bet you when he asked who the assault victims were, he probably had no memory of that having happened.
Yeah, I agree.
But man, what a Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
What a ride.
All right, Facebook comments of the week. We've only got a few this week, and I, for one, am fine with that.
Can we do one more Sirens Banger of the week?
Oh, yeah, there was another one that was mentioned in the Slack. So, yeah, lay it on me.
Yeah. We got Colorado man charged for allegedly threatening to bomb Centralia Police Department. This gentleman, Tony James Mattingly, he was upset because nothing was done regarding his vehicle theft that he had reported. So he told a dispatcher he would kill 9 police officers because it had been 9 months since his vehicle was stolen. Subsequently demanded $100,000 and threatened to bomb the Centralia Police Department. He then left 4 voicemails for the Police Records Department, and in one of the messages on February 14th said he was going to bomb the police station on Maple Street at 6 a.m. on February 16th. He said that there was going to be a U-Haul truck leaking propane that's going to blow your effing police station up.
Oh, that's right across the street from this office.
Also told the dispatcher to tell the officer his family is effing dead.
That's rough.
Yeah, it was really bad. I mean, we had an exploding situation in Nashville not all that long ago, so
Yeah.
I'm glad they took this seriously.
And this is over his car being stolen?
Yeah, his car was stolen, and I'm assuming he was just mad because it had not been returned yet, which, I mean, that's, when your car gets stolen, I mean, maybe relative to some other crimes, there's a decent percentage, maybe you'll get it back, but...
Can't just have liability, you gotta go full
coverage. It is not
coverage.
an expectation, yeah.
All right, some Facebook comments of the week. One on a story about Governor Jay Inslee signing a $2.2 billion COVID relief bill. The comment is, did the Nigerians run out of money?
Come on, guys. That's good.
That's
good.
That's solid.
That's good.
And then on the building on North Tower Avenue's roof falling in. Somebody said, if it's the old Safeway building, it was known to have a dangerous roof for over 10 years. I'm pretty sure that building has been empty for 10, 15,
I've never seen
20
anything
years.
in it, but
Yeah, over 10 years.
the
Everybody
response,
knew.
though, is the best part.
Yeah, and then another comment. Yep, the old Safeway building. I stole my first candy bar out of there in '53 when I was 6, and it was sure good.
Stoled.
That's a good comment.
Stoled.
That's how it was spelled back then.
Yeah,
Okay, well,
Back in
wholesome,
53.
wholesome bit of shoplifting.
Yeah, I like that.
So, and then our final item on the show notes is there is a new podcast coming later this week in which Eric Schwartz and Franklin Taylor interview a local newsmaker. It is called Chronversations. If you subscribe online through Apple Podcasts or Spotify or anything else, it will pop up in your feed just with a slightly different name. And if you're already subscribed, you've got it. You have to do nothing. And if you listen to these podcasts on Chronline like a pioneer, you also have to do nothing because it will still just be another item on chronline.com.
It's definitely one to listen to. It's been called one of the best.
It has.
A lot of
By
people,
myself.
It's one of the best. It's now been called one of the best twice.
Twice.
A lot of people are saying this. They interview
A lot of people.
They interview local lawmaker Peter Abarno in the first episode. So stay tuned for that. Peter's got some great bits of legislation he talks about, and it gets a little personal on a few questions towards the end as well. So with that, this has been the Sunday, February 21st edition of News Dump. Thank you for listening.